Carlos Alcaraz is back in the green grass of Wimbledon, and he looks pretty rusty, and it doesn't look great so far. So we know that last week, Carlos Alcaraz won in Queens. I said that he was set to become the King of Queens, and he did become the Queen of Queens, basically bursting through everybody. He had a few three-set matches, but he won just because he was by far the best player in that draw. Coming into Wimbledon, he was the heavy favorite to win Wimbledon again for a third straight time. He was by far the most consistent player on grass of anybody else here. He won Queens this year. He won Queens 2 years ago. Clearly, it looked like Carlos was by far the favorite. There was no way that anything would go wrong. And he was playing against Fabio Fognini, like, in the first round. Unless you're like the biggest tennis super fan, and I'm a pretty big fan, but maybe not quite as much into the nitty-gritty until you come into the higher ranks of the sport, you're going to see a lot of big-name guys play against players you had never heard of before. Maybe had heard of once or twice in qualifiers, or maybe the first round they got eliminated, or maybe they did pretty well and made to the third round or fourth round of a 250 or a 500. But I had never heard of Fabio Fognini, and I thought there was absolutely no way that Carlos doesn't straight set him. But it doesn't. He doesn't. It takes Carlos 5 sets to get past Fabio Fognini. It takes him everything he has. Carlos was sloppy for huge portions of this match. And by the way, up until the final set, even the sets that he won, he didn't win convincingly. He won the first set 7-5, but then lost the second set 7-6. It was absolutely stupid. I don't get how that happens. Carlos just doesn't look like he focuses all the time. And look, that could be a testament to his greatness and just how good he is overall, that at any point, he could turn it up and he will knock you out, and then boom, you're done. That's why I said when he is at his best, nobody can beat Carlos Alcaraz. But the issue with him sometimes is that sometimes he's not always at his best, and maybe that can bite him. Now, he's been the best player in the ATP this year, with Jannik Sinner being injured for a while. Obviously, he won the French Open, but he also won Rotterdam. He also won Monte Carlo. He won the Italian Open, and then he won Queens, and he's the favorite to win Wimbledon again. He's been the best player, but at any moment, could you potentially catch Carlos on an off day and beat him? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've always said that I think it's more likely to catch Carlos on an off day than Jannik Sinner, even though Jannik Sinner can't beat Carlos Alcaraz. It's kind of funny how that works, but Carlos, he plays all these matches that sometimes you're just like, what are you doing, bro? So one thing that a lot of people criticize Novak Djokovic on is that he never won a slam by not dropping a set the entire tournament. I think Nadal did it 4 times at Roland Garros alone. Federer did it at least a couple times, at least once or a couple of times. Djokovic never did it. And even though he won 24 slams, he never won a slam where he didn't drop a set the entire tournament. Carlos Alcaraz, the type of player he is, he doesn't strike me as somebody who will accomplish that either. And I'm not doubting his ability. I'm just doubting the fact that there are some moments where he lets opponents get into the match. He takes his foot off the gas pedal and he starts playing a little bit sloppy. Clearly the conditions bothered him today. It was a very hot day in London. It was 32 degrees Celsius, about 88 degrees Fahrenheit today. Today and tomorrow will be the hottest days of the tournament. It'll get down into like the 70s, which is mid-20s temperature-wise throughout the rest of the week and the next week. So that'll be a little bit better. But this is by far the hottest day that you'll see. And the conditions clearly affect him. He was putting ice to his head every moment during the changeovers and during in-between sets. So that probably affected him. And of course, it's the first match of Wimbledon. There's nothing more special in the sport than Wimbledon. And you're playing against an opponent that you don't really know that well. They can always surprise you. But you have to be disappointed in Carlos because he was good. He was supposed to win regardless. But some of these stats I'm looking at, he did kill him with the aces. He had 14 aces. He had a lot of down the tee aces, which I was really impressed by, which always got him out of trouble. Djokovic does the same thing a lot. He had 9 double faults, though. 9. That is just sloppy, slightly rusty tennis. Like I said, he won Queens, but that was over a week ago against players he was significantly better than, and that was always going to happen. First serve percentage was very high, 71%, but he was broken 5 times in this match, 5 times, and he had 21 break points that he faced. He actually faced more break points than Fabio Fognini did, which is actually crazy to think about. Overall, of course, Carlos did blitz him into the final set, which you just knew that if Fabio Fognini didn't get a couple of those points, like he missed the very first point of the 5th set. He had a backhand while he was coming to the net, and he flat out shanked it and hit it into the net. That was just a feeling like, yeah, you've went as far as you possibly could have gone. You did as well as you could have gone against the best player in the world, the number 2 player in the world ranking wise, but the guy who most of us consider the best player in the world. But for you to miss easy shots like that, it just feels like you're out of the match. All of your energy, all of your quality, all of your ability has been fully laid out and fully, used in the first 4 sets, particularly sets 2 and sets 4, which you won. And set 4, you were phenomenal, but Carlos was so sloppy. He shanked a couple of balls off the frame of his racket. He had a couple backhand misses where I'm like, bro, are you even trying? What are you doing, bro? They had a huge time, like 17 minutes in between 2 points at one point. I think it was, I don't know if it was to close the roof or it wasn't a medical timeout. I think it was to close the roof because the sun was beaming a little bit too directly. If you remember back in Wimbledon in like 2008 in that era when they didn't have a roof over center court, which is pretty wild. Imagine if they had that now, it'd be crazy. But Carlos, he's got to be better. He's got to be better, and I believe he will be better. He seems like the type of guy who will raise his level given the opponent. I mentioned that's the stark difference between him and Jannik Sinner, because Jannik Sinner will play the same no matter who the opponent is, and that's good because it ensures that usually he gets deep in every tournament. Obviously, he got knocked out early in the Holly Open a couple weeks ago. Maybe that was just a lull after the Roland Garros final. He just couldn't get over it, but Alcaraz seems to, I don't know if it's preserve his energy. He's clearly not preserving his energy because he's had to play longer, a 5-setter at the beginning that you just don't want to do. I don't care how young you are, and I don't care how in good of shape you are. You just don't want to do that. So yeah, entertaining match. I enjoyed watching it. Was there any part of me that truly ever believed Alcaraz was going to lose? No. Just because I knew that the 5th set, Alcaraz has like a 90-something% winning percentage in the 5th set during slams. It's unbelievable, and I just figured that he was going to win. In the moment that he blitzed through that first service game and then broke him, you knew it was over. You knew it was over. It wasn't pretty. It was ugly. But it was over, and that's all that matters for Carlos. I don't even know who he plays next. I don't even think we know yet. But yeah, it's been a great first day to Wimbledon so far. Tsitsipas had to retire. That guy has just been going through a lot of stuff. From a guy who was in the ATP finals multiple times, was in several Grand Slam finals, I think who had won 3 Monte Carlo Masters 1000s, to now being 24th in the world and losing the first round of the most important tennis tournament of the year. Doesn't look good. And I know it was a walkover. I know he was likely hurt. But it still didn't feel like he should be in that position against somebody who you think he's better than. Holger Rune continues to be just an on and off disappointment. A guy who can, play some great tennis, but also lose against, who is that? Nicolas Jerry. You were up 2 sets as well, bro. And then you just flat out shanked it. Medvedev is going through all kinds of stuff. Medvedev hates clay. It's clear that he hates clay. And I think clay messed him up big time because he didn't look comfortable on the grass anyway. Thank God for him, the hard court season is coming up, and we know how long the hard court season is. It's really 2 seasons. It bridges over into the next year. And he's a hard court specialist, and he'll do great there. But yeah, the clay messed him up. I think he's even had conversations about fully skipping clay because he's like, I hate it. And it's just not for him. There's 3 services in tennis. Clearly, not all the services are for everybody, but maybe he'll pass. We had the Hetchka winning. We had some pretty good stuff going on. Ons Jabeur unfortunately retired her early match. And I think I saw another upset. Naomi Osaka's playing right now. I'll catch the ending of that. Jasmine Paolini is looks like she's about to win. She's up 2-6, 6-3, 3-0 in on court 2 as we speak. So some pretty good tennis going on. Olga Danilovic won. I saw Sabalenka won. So yeah, it looks great, and I can't look forward to continue watching tomorrow. Obviously, we have Sinner and Djokovic tomorrow, and I believe Coco as well, which will be great to see. But the bottom line is, Carlos, you can't keep playing with fire. As great as you are, eventually you're just going to have to hone in and lock in from the beginning, or else it'll bite you. Similar to how the Chiefs always played with fire in their Super Bowls, and this Super Bowl it bit them. Because every Super Bowl during the Mahomes era, they've gone down by at least 10 points. But this one, along with the Buccaneers one, they couldn't come back because the opponent was too great and they just, strangled them. And you feel like, what if an opponent does that to Carlos? You never know. But hey, let's continue watching Wimbledon and let's see what's happening. I am back now. I know I was gone for a little bit, but I am back now and can't wait for the end of Wimbledon and the Club World Cup and everything else that has to happen in the world of sports because it'll be awesome.